the greatest pivot for me is in that, we get to those moments where we always say prayer should never be the last resort, right? Prayer should always be the first priority. And sometimes when we pray and we don't get the results, we start doubting, we start questioning in some way, right? We have never walked away from my faith, but certainly it's been stronger at times than it has at others. And I actually have shared this notion that I haven't really had an anxious thought, Lavelle, in probably 5 or 6 years. And I think it comes back to this particular point in my life where, and I'll give you the details in a moment, but I look back at several places in my life where I had challenges, and those challenges were overwhelming, and I didn't know how I was going to get through it. And now when I look back at all of those times, I see what I needed to learn and how I needed to grow through them and how I came out on the other side of it, and recognize that that was necessary to get me to the next place. So I see now that any challenge that's in front of me, any obstacle, any hurdle, I don't necessarily say, oh, I love this, but I recognize the need for it because God's going to use it in a way. And if I'm obedient to him, and if I'm willing to step through those doors that are cracked open and walk away from the doors he closes and allow his timing, right, for when things come to fruition or when things reach the point of success, then there's nothing to be anxious about. And that happened for me in that pivot when I retired early, at 25 years in public education, but I was 47 years old. And so I retired early, took a hit on my pension for a change that I felt at that point I'd been praying about, and I felt the Lord was leading me to. And in that first year, it was probably the hardest stretch in my life. But out of that came several things. My wife and I grew closer than really we had ever been. She stepped up in such a huge way to support me during that time. And it pivoted me away or into another direction that has all led to where I am now. Christian education, consulting, coaching, vocation college, and career advising. None of that would have happened. So the people that I'm now meeting, that I'm impacting, like you and I, Lavelle, would probably never have met had I stayed on that path, stayed in New Jersey, not moved out of full-day, full-time administration. So everything I look back, every relationship, everything, all of it was all part of God's design.